Hello, Craig Dillon, your observationist here, episode 8. We're going to be discussing the latest Yougov polls that actually project a blue wave. I'm going to compare its projection with my projection. So let's take a look at that. Anyway, here I am. Welcome. I think it's going to be an interesting night. We're having Now, when I decide on a topic for one of my episodes, there are so many things to choose from. There's so many things happening. I'm not going to try and be a news station. I think there's other people out there that are doing that quite well, and probably doing a much better job than I am. I am not going on site like Don Lemon is, and God bless him. He's really doing a bang up job. Hope you follow him. He's doing something special. Anyway, I'm looking at things from a more analytical point of view. Where things are and where they're headed. About 5 or 6 months ago, I predicted a blue wave and a realignment coming this November. At that time, I predicted 55 seats for the Democrats. A few weeks ago, earlier this month, I upped it to 58 seats that the Democrats are going to win. My approach is very different than what you might see on Let's Talk Elections or Cook or Silver. They do a more traditional look, but I think that the traditional approach right now, the conditions today really break that approach. Reason why is because that approach looks at past voting patterns and kind of projects them onto the coming election. Problem is that Trump has really broken the voting patterns. People are not going to be voting the way they did before, and I'm certain that you are probably getting a sense of this yourself. I mean, we talk about how all these MAGA voters in the red areas, the rural areas, how they fuck around and find out the FAFO, and why is because they voted Trump, they voted Republican, and they voted Republican long before Trump was around. They were steadfast Republican voters for not just mere decades, but for generations. The people of Kansas and Nebraska, and Ohio and Indiana, these people have been Republicans, forever. And the problem is, some of them are going to be changing, and why? Because they've been betrayed by the Republican Party. They've been betrayed by Trump, and the Republican Party has, rolled over and, played dead, or at least asked Trump to rub their tummy. They're just totally rubber stamp Congress for Trump, which is like he tears down a part of the White House for which he has no right to do so. Do the Republicans in Congress even protest that? No, none of them did. I mean that's disgusting. But hey, that's them. But I think that the people of many people in the United States now are waking up to that, and a lot of the old Republican voting bloc are upset with the way they've been treated, and it's so they're changing sides in some ways is going to be is what I expect. Now, what we're going to be talking about now is a blue wave. Now, a blue wave differs from a realignment in that a blue wave only presumes that the voting change is for that one term. For instance, like in 1974, right after the the Watergate hearings, that was a big blue wave. The Republicans got trashed, but it was just for that one election. That's it. After that, the Republicans came right back. Now, you might say that Carter won the election in 1976 because of that. Maybe. But, but they were still contending for the House seats and the Senate seats. It wasn't anything like the realignment under FDR that lasted a couple generations. It lasted for like 40, 50 years. So the blue wave at 1974 was just that. It was just a wave. That's it. It just came, washed over, and then receded and was gone. So that's how that's what a wave is. A realignment is different, fundamentally different. A realignment is where the people not only change how they vote for that one election, but now they've changed their identity. They've changed who they're aligning with. Hence the word realignment. So so people who were Democrat now vote Republican, or people who were Republican now vote Democrat. And that's kind of what I'm expecting. Unfortunately, we won't know about a realignment until actually several elections go by. But let's look at this coming year, this coming November, where realignment or blue wave, whichever one it is, it will be a blue wave at the very least. Whether or not it stays and becomes a realignment, that's another issue. But it will be, I think it'll be a big blue wave. Now let's take a look at the Yougov poll. Now this is rather interesting. You take a look at here. Now the red does not indicate Republican. Okay, the red indicates disapproval of Trump. This is really just basically a level of disapproval. And one thing I think that is happening this year is that this election will be basically a race that is based upon Trump. It's not what typical races are. Typical races are issue based. The economy, foreign situations, healthcare. They're issue based. Not this one. It's not that those aren't unimportant, and it's not that they're going to have an effect. They are. But what's happening now is that people now are really looking deep within themselves. Do they really want to support Trump? Do they want to support the Republican Party? And the Republican Party has really allied itself deeply with Trump. I mean, they're tied at the hip. And that's not always the case. And president is often seen as different from his party. Why? Because there are people within the party that will disagree, and there'll be different power centers within the party that are separate and apart from the president that's in office. Not this time. Trump has done a remarkable job at getting rid of those areas of alternate power. Liz Cheney gotten rid of. The Romneys gotten rid of. Bush has gotten rid of. All of the there are no mainline old line Republicans around. But the only one that might be considered that would be, a couple of them might be Mitch McConnell, but this is his last year. He's gone after November, so he's really a non-factor. Rand Paul, he's different from he's set a slightly different path than Trump, but he's a loner. Rand Paul does not lead a coalition or a group. There's no group of senators or congressmen, or governors, or anybody that collects around Ron Paul. And Ron Paul is his own man, and and he's to be in a sense, respected and admired for that, but that does limit his ability to really be a power center. He's not. So there's really only Trump. And so everything that is done by the government, by Trump, is now reflected on the Republican Party. Because the Republican House and the Republican Senate have rubber stamped everything he's done. Like even now, for instance, like Ms. Good and Alex Preddy up in Minneapolis killed. Okay, that's nasty. Normally, after something like that, there's some hand wringing, and then there's an investigation, and things are found out, in the process of, and the wheels of government and the wheels of justice turn. But Trump and his administration have put the kibosh on any kind of investigations, which is bizarre. Congress, the Republican Congress, they went right along with it. Well, people see that, and people are disturbed by that, and more people are upset by it. And these are people that are on both sides of the aisle. The people who are conservative, people who are Democrat. These are people who are, they're seeing that the procedures of democracy, the procedures of our republic, are not being followed, and that upsets them. Even if they hate Alex Preddy, they hate Ms. Good, they could see that those actions could be turned around and put on them in a moment. If the government is given that kind of power, then nobody is safe, and they know that. And so even some of the MAGA faithful are getting upset. Trump and his gang have accused Alex Preddy of having a gun. Oh my God. Well, I'm sorry, but the MAGA voters, I believe they're virtually 100% identified with open gun ownership and open carry and closed and concealed carry, and it's whichever way you want to go do a gun, they're behind it, so this is so when Trump and his gang say guns are a problem, they have a problem, and that's going to cause a number of them to I think a number of them to question their allegiance to this guy. But anyway, let's take a look at the Yougov poll. I think you'll find it very interesting. Okay, like I was saying, the red here does not indicate Republican like it often does. Here it indicates level of disapproval of Trump and his policies. And it's just a broad level of disapproval. We're not looking at it issue by issue. And here's what's interesting. Okay, so we have anything on the pink or going towards the red is disapproval. There's various levels of it. We have places like Maryland where we have a 40.9% disapproval rate. And approval is negative. That's huge. Illinois, negative 32. Minnesota, negative 21. But even like Pennsylvania, negative 15 or 16. But then we get into places where it's not as much. Ohio, 9.2% down. Indiana, 5.2%. But even places like Mississippi, 6.9% down. Louisiana. Now here's one that I found really interesting. Texas, 17.2%. Trump is underwater, 17.2% in Texas. That's huge. Florida, 7.5%. So it's. But all these states that are red are states where Trump is below water. Now, so let's look at what that means in terms of states. If we took all of these red states and say, okay, if the election coming up really ends up being a popularity contest of Trump, and that is the main determinant of who gets elected senator in any of these states, then let's take a look at what that means. and this is what it means. I went through all of these states here with how they rated, and now for the ones that are having Senate elections, I colored them appropriately. Darker red means more than 20% disapprove. Medium blue like these that between 10 and 20%, and then light red, medium red between 10 and 20%, and then these. Oh no, these are the. See, this is what I got my own self confused. And here in this map, the pink means Republican. But I am going by how Republican, how strong disapproval is. So and approval is. So in this one here, the approval is between 0 and 10%. In these, the disapproval is between 0 and 10%. Here, the disapproval is between 10 and 20. Here, the disapproval is between 10 and 20%, between 10 and 20%, and then these dark blue ones are where it's over 20%. I think I might have Ohio wrong. Let me just check that. Yeah, Ohio wrong. That should be 9. Okay, yeah, that should be a medium. That should be a light blue. There. Now I got that corrected. But if you look at this is 59 senator, 59. If this map holds, that would mean that Yougov would be predicting 59 senators that are Democrat at the end of the election next year. That is actually one more than what I predict. What I predict is this. There. That's my prediction, and that's 58. And even I will admit that's somewhat aggressive. And for many people, that will be very surprising. People are not picking Louisiana or Florida. Nobody is. I mean, Silver and Cook and Let's Talk Elections. They have this as a solid red. Like this is a given. Ashley Moody is going to just trounce the Democratic opposition, and I think that that's totally wrong. I think that things have happened there that are going to basically destroy the Ashley Moody. The Republican Party in Florida is in deep, deep trouble because they have terrorized and abused the Cuban Americans. The Cuban Americans are the ones that made Florida such a red state. And now the Cuban Americans are Democrats. And by the way, in case you weren't watching, there was a election for the mayor of Miami in December. And normally that is won by a Republican by 60, 70 points, by 60%, 70%. Not this last time. They lost by about, I think the Democrat got like 70%. And there was like a 70-point swing toward the Democrats in Miami from the normal easy trouncing of a Democrat by a Republican. It went the other way. And the reason why? The Cuban American vote. And so I think that is going to really hurt the Republicans in Florida. And I think that and then with the other things that are happening, which is a lot of other things, I think that Ashley Moody has a snowball's chance in hell of becoming senator or remaining senator in Florida. Louisiana, they changed from an open primary to a closed primary, and that means that they're going to nominate a very, very right-wing Trumper senator nominee, and that guy's going to get trounced because the independents are basically not voting for Trump and for Trump's people. Meanwhile, Texas is a big story. It looks like what's his name, Federico, is likely to beat Cronin. Cronin is not that popular. Ted Cruz has been more popular than Cronin, which isn't saying much. Here we have Iowa. Joni Ernst, she dropped out of the race, and she's and Joni Ernst was not was not an old woman or something like that. She wasn't like a Susan Collins or somebody. She's relatively young. So when a younger member of the House or Senate bows out, that usually means that they see the writing on the wall. And I think that she did, and she knows that Iowa's going Democrat. Nebraska and Kansas, I feel that they're going to go Democrat. I don't have as a solid information there, but I'm going on some minor elections that occurred in Kansas that swung to the Democrats. That swung to the Democrats. Um, so I'm not as confident about Nebraska and Kansas, to be honest. So there's a halfway decent chance that they will that they will stay Republican. But my right now my this is more of a gut feel. I feel that they're going to be tending towards the blue. Ohio blue. Kentucky's another one where traditionally they've identified Republican, been a Republican state for a long time. But the destruction of their liquor industry from the booze boycott in Canada, I think that's I think that's a big. I think it's a serious problem, and I think that's going to cause a lot of people to shift for their vote. But again, you know, I am thinking rationally, and unfortunately, the American voter is not always rational. It's as simple as that. They're just not. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, that's what's going on there. Um, the thing which I'm looking at also, the reason why I'm also thinking of realignment is going to happen, is because Trump is not acting like a normal politician. Not at all. He is. He when there's problems with a policy of his, he tends to double down. He doesn't tend to back away and say, "Oh, a mistake was made," and we'll change policy. He doesn't do that. Um, Even now, when they're talking about him changing tone, I really like that expression. He's changing tone about Minneapolis, not changing policies, not changing tactics, just changing tone. People don't give a fuck about tone. You know, when you're kidnapping their children and shooting their citizens, they're not concerned about tone. They're looking at actions. And if ICE and the FBI and the other federal agencies don't change their policies, don't change their tactics, then it doesn't matter what tone uh, Trump or Nome or anybody else in the government takes. It's not about tone, and that's absurd. But they seem to think it is, which is in itself curious. I mean, how stupid can they be to think it's about tone? But there you go. He's he's a strange guy, really strange guy. Anyway, that's my analysis for today. Um, Have a good weekend. Stay positive, and I'll see you guys Monday.